You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello, music lovers, and welcome to Modern Musicology. My name is Alan, and as always, I am joined with two of my great friends, Stephanie Seymour.
Howdy, everybody.
And Rob Levy.
Sup?
And unfortunately, Anthony, our fourth wheel, is unable to be with us this week, but we have a very special guest that's joining us, David Fishof, founder of the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp and author of the new book, Rock Camp, an oral history, 25 years of the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. Mr. Fishof, thank you so much for joining us. We are absolutely honored to have you with us.
Well, thank you. My father's Mr. Fishof. Call me David.
Will do from this point on.
Please.
Yeah, we're so happy that you're here. So
Thank you.
I just want to give the listener sort of a brief history of your career, which is impossible to do in one paragraph. But I just want to give them an overview of how you got the idea for the Rock Camp. So in your book, you say that you were always a dreamer and you knew what you want. You know, you wanted to make it big. So you became a sports agent right after high school. And you met Lou Piniella of the Yanks, and you came up with the idea for a sports camp, which was successful. You met basketball player Earl Monroe and then you rented his accountant's office on Broadway for some years, and that's where you worked with a lot of rock and roll tour managers and agents and stuff. And you decided you wanted to get into the more entertainment side of things rather than sports.
Correct. So
you ended up, I guess it's 1983 when you sort of full-time became in the entertainment world.
Yes.
Okay. You produced.
But I was always in the Catskills. You know, I always had the Catskills in my background. So
yes,
that's Dirty Dancing. So.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say you produced tons of music tours like the Happy Together tour in 85 with the Turtles, the Monkees reunion tour in 86, the Dirty Dancing tour in 87, and so many more. And then in 1989, you asked Ringo Starr to go on tour and brought Ringo Starr and his all-star band together, which is we definitely want to talk about more later. But it was during that tour, which I think this is such a great story, that Joe Walsh and Lee Von Helm played a prank on you. They basically pranked you into thinking they were in a knife and bottle fight with fake blood and everything. And after the shock wore off and you realized that wasn't real, you just saw how much fun they were having, and you wanted to bring the public into this kind of experience with the rock and roll people. So it took a little while, but in 1997, your dream came to fruition in the form of the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, which basically brings together people with rock stars for like 4 to 5 days,
right.
You know, extravaganzas. People jam together and they do a concert the final night.
Well, we put them in a band, and they get mentored, and they do master classes, and they do jam rooms, and I really give them that feeling like I had when I was on tour for all those years. And so by the time they leave on Monday morning, their fingers are, they're hurting from the guitar. They take them to the highest places possible in their lives, give them the ultimate, and then they want to come back.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like you have many return campers. I just want to ask you, though, about the very first camp, because in the book, you say, monetarily, it was not a success.
It was a disaster. Yeah, it was really hard.
And I want to know what drove you to keep going. How did the momentum start to evolve?
So I did the first camp, and we announced it, and and then it was a disaster because we had more press. It's so funny. I had 50 members of the media there who wanted to cover this, and I had like 15 campers, and then we put some friends in. Invited, I think a ball player was there, showed up, a kicker of Kansas City Chiefs. I forget his name, but he also had interest of playing music. And the press came out. It was great, but it was hard to sell an idea out there. It's really difficult. And although we had a lot of media, helping us initially going in, The biggest problem we have with camp is the fear factor, that how people are scared to go jam with their heroes. I mean,
Yeah.
and I get it. I was asked by a friend of mine, invited me to go to Michael Jordan fantasy camp. And he said, David, I'm giving you a gift, because he knows how crazy I am about basketball. And I said, I'm not going to jam. I'm not going to go play one-on-one with Michael Jordan or play 3-on-3 with Michael Jordan. I mean, I'm too scared, and so I get the fear factor. But I'll tell you, the ones who do come and they break their fear, they keep coming back. But the results have just been incredible to see people forming bands, writing songs. And, we don't promise any stardom at all, but, I've seen such great success in all these tribute bands. And, just today I took one of my camper bands and got him a spot to play at the Viper Room.
Oh, wow.
A whole hour. I mean, so, I've seen success. I've seen a lot of success.
It seems to me that it's success on different levels, because not just, people get to jam and have fun with their favorite, rock star. But there's a quote in the book that I read, that you wrote, that I just think is so wonderful, and it encapsulates everything. You said, a rock star is more than someone who can just play a tune or write an album. A rock star is someone who lives his or her dream. A rock star is someone who's leading a life of happiness, pursuing their passion against all odds. And with the right encouragement and enough courage, anyone can do it. And to me, there's so many stories of people overcoming things just in that short period of time.
Right. And so Tony Robbins said, if you want to, get better in something, immerse yourself in it for 4 days, 5 days. I know a friend of mine, they went to wanted to learn wines, and went to Paris and just joined a wine, just said, I'm going to take a course on wines. So, and spent 2 weeks in Paris learning wines and where they're from and where they taste and everything like that. So what I really wanted out of the movie and out of the book is I want people to realize that at any age, they can attribute, they don't have to be scared, and that they can do what they want on their dreams. So if you want to be an artist, you want to create an app, you want to write a song, no matter what it is, I'm hoping that you'll watch that film. I'm hoping you'll read that book, and you'll say, these people did it through music. I can also do it. And it's just a matter of, telling yourself the right story.
No, it's so inspiring. It is truly an inspiring movie. And the book was so just, first of all, it's easy to read, because it's just wonderful, paragraphs from the campers, the counselors, just the stories that everyone's sharing. It's just, it's so
and the
inspiring.
passion. I looked at the book yesterday, because you forget, and I what I really loved was, during COVID, it was a really tough time. I can't tell you how many artists believed they were never going to work again. I mean, Mick Fleetwood came out and said, he said, the Fleetwood Mac's over. We're never going to tour again. And then all of a sudden, she passed away recently. Miss McVie. But so we did these master classes, and I would charge people to go ask questions, whether it was Alice Cooper and Styx, and a lot of these artists gave it to charity. Roger Dolce gave his to Teenage Cancer America, and Styx gave it to their crew. What's the Scorpions? They came on from Germany, said, we'll do this. We're going to give the money to our crew. I mean, it was so beautiful to see the generosity that came out. But in 160 master classes, there was one common denominator in every class was passion. They all have passion for their work. And number two, the song. No matter what it is, it's all about the song. And especially if you want to become a star and everything like that, and the music. But passion. And I think that's really something that people need to integrate into their lives and find their passions and what they love and what they want to do.
When you're talking about people of all ages coming to these things and getting this experience, what is the youngest and what is the oldest camper that you've had?
So, I have a women's camp coming up.
I was going to bring that up later.
4 or 5 weeks with Winona Judd and Lizzie Hale. I'm getting them from 12 years old to nannies. I said, what's your email? It's nanny, Superman, whatever it was. But it was a nanny signed up. I found with the women's camp, the ages are from 12 to 70, and I put the 12-year-olds in a band with the 12-year-olds and the older people. But, the one great thing about music is there's no age that, listen, you can go, Rob, you can talk about sports and we can go to the St. Louis Cardinals fantasy camp. And there's no way that you're going to ever be, Orlando Cepeda. Okay. There's no way you're going to ever be a baseball star, but you can write a song at 80. You can tour, you can get into a tribute band. So music is just so different. And I think that, so all ages can come. And I think, while it's expensive, I think parents who do send their kids to us, they really learn so much. I mean, Gene Simmons said, I wish they had this when I was first starting out, to be able to ask these rock stars their questions and their experience. And, and these are the people that have made it.
Yeah.
They've made it. And they can give you the best insight, the best information that you could ever want.
I was really impressed by the willingness of so many of the rock stars to just, they set aside their egos and they just go for the sheer fun of it. And it's amazing. It's like some of them were like more excited to meet their idols too. And
yes. Yes. Well, it wasn't like that when I first started. It was hard in the beginning. It was very difficult. I remember calling a couple of musicians. Oh, I don't play with amateurs. And no one was doing that. No one's doing meet and greets when we started this. And all of a sudden they realized that, these are musicians, like Roger Daltrey said, that reminds me of what it was like when I first started. Yeah. And I think that's what Paul Stanley saw it, and Sammy Hagar. If we only had a place where we could have gone and years ago, we could have asked questions and what to avoid and what should we do? Like, don't sell your publishing.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Don't take those pennies, or so many questions that even the Beatles made mistakes and Elvis and back then, the business was just starting, but to get the expertise and their willingness to give it. And I think that's really why I'm still doing this, is because it's not me. It's Joe Perry comes to the camp one time and then he realizes when he leaves, hey, there's something here. And he comes back a third and a fourth and a fifth time. And same thing with Roger Daltrey and same thing with Gene Simmons. And, they realize that there's some, they walk out of there with a great feeling that I can help somebody. I can give someone some advice.
And David, you've talked a little bit about what the people that go to the camp get out of it and what the musicians get out of it. But what have you gotten out of it? I mean, obviously it's probably been transformational for you as well.
Rob, totally. Yes, I made very good money when I was touring with the big stars and I was on the road and producing tours, and no question about it. But now it's a hard business because I'll tell you why. You can only put one bass player in a band, and you can only have like 12 bands, 13 bands the most, because how many bands can you ask a star to play with? So you can put one drummer in, maybe two sometimes, but so it's limited. So, but for me, I have to tell you, it's really been life-changing because it's more fun to give than to take. And every day you open up an email saying, hey, thank you so much. And, you changed my life. And the women tell me my husband doesn't have road rage anymore and he's happy. They're really finding happiness and the friendships they make. And it's really, Rock Camp has become a beautiful community. And from this, so this is what's amazing. From this community, and it came unbeknownst to me, is these campers got together and they asked me, can they form a foundation? And they formed a rock and roll foundation. And that's what I did with the book. I donated all the proceeds to the book, to the foundation. So if you go on Amazon and buy the book, the foundation's getting them 100% of the money.
That's so wonderful.
From the sales. And I because what they're doing is they decided, we're going to use this opportunity to give young people a chance to go to Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And so it's been great.
Have you become friends like outside of camp with some of these campers? I mean, I know you must be with some of the counselors.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of them. And some of them I've maintained really great friendships, but forget me, it's the rock stars who said to me, my best friends are from Rock Camp. Yeah. And they're the ones who, and I said to Roger Daltrey, said, oh, all those people, your campers are all in the front row. And I said, they're in the front row because they jam with you. They can't sit anywhere else. They got to sit up front. So yeah, the friendship. At every camp, I meet 40, 50 new people, and they're really fabulous people. And I think the rock stars see that too, because these people they want to be musicians. They just, It's not easy to be a musician. I can't. I've tried it. I tried. It's hard, and you got to put a lot of practice and and you got to be dedicated. And what's so good about camp is how so many of these campers have never been on a stage before, never been in a band before, and now they come to camp and they're jamming away, and it's great. I mean, I had a young lady call me. She said, "David, my father came to your camp a year ago, and he's doing his first gig. Would you come?" And he used to take lessons on Saturdays in his house, and now on Zoom. And then he came to camp, met some guys and a gal, and they formed a band. And he walked into SIR in New York, and he said, I want to rent rehearsal space. The guy turned to me and says, "Have you ever been in a band before?" And the guy says, "No, but here's my picture with Roger Dolce. We jammed last week at the House of Blues."
Nice.
Okay. Sure, I'll rent your room. And then they became a band. And so I show up to their first gig they did. They hired a music teacher to teach them. And, there were amps stacked to the ceiling and, 20 guitars. And the drummer had 3 basses, not 2, 3 bass drums, because guys, they love gear, and the vocalist in front, she had an outfit on, she must have spent $1,000 at Chanel for the outfit. But it was so cool to see them and to see how happy they were. And one of my favorite lines, and it's in the book, but I tell the story about Joe Perry. We're doing a camp in Foxwoods Casino, and the rockers, they love doing the Q&As. They love, because they want to give advice, and and the questions aren't what's your favorite band? It's like, who inspired you? Tell me about your guitar. How many pickups do you have? What kind of amps do you use? Talk about the recording, talk about this album. And the questions are just great. They're gear. So some guy, Joe said, "Let me ask you a question, sir." He says, "What do you do for a living?" The guy says, "I'm a lawyer." And he says, "On weekends, I play guitar in my band." And Joe turns to him and says, "You're full of shit. Pardon my expression." He says, "But you're a guitarist first. You do the legal bull crap to buy guitars." "Yeah, that's me.
No, it's like the musician at heart, That's really what
People are musicians at heart.
Mm-hmm.
When I was watching the documentary, I was blown away by some of the personal stories that came out of the experience, both from the rock stars and from the campers. And I'm thinking specifically of, seeing footage of Tony Franklin just hanging out at his house with his daughter, doing his gardening, and talking about what an experience the fantasy camp is for him. And then you intercut that with, and I'm so sorry, I forgot his name, but the drummer who is talking to his daughters and telling them the story of,
Pistol,
oh my, he's amazing. And I want to be his best friend. And I was just blown away by all of that.
Tony Franklin was absolutely amazing.
God, I've loved Tony Franklin for a long time, and that just made me love him more.
He's so honest, and he came out, and I have to say that if it wasn't for 12-step programs, I probably wouldn't be in business. I think 12 steps teaches people to give back. So a lot of the musicians are, when they first started, they were 12-steppers. They wanted to give back. I asked Jeff Beck why he did my camp. He said, "David, the business has been so good to me. I wanted to really give back to people." And so I think that I love that in the film, that part. But I think that what's great about the film is you see rock stars like you've never seen them before, and
100%.
When I toured, when I was on the road with all my artists, 99% of them, when it came to the last song, we were in a van and we were running and we were going to the next city, whether it was a bus or getting on a plane. Unlike the country artists, they once asked Keith Urban, and I remember going to an Oprah show, and I said, "Keith, do you ever see your fans?" And she said, "I love my fans. I love them. They come on my bus at 5 o'clock. I hug them. I kiss them." And she said, "What was the first rock concert you went to?" And he said, "I went to see Aerosmith." I said, "I would have done anything to meet Steven Tyler and Joe Perry." So different world. Rock stars always ran out the door, and the country people, they're there with their buses and everything. So. But I thought what I loved most about the movie is just the way how humble these rockers turned out, and they really are. I know I promoted my book. I've always promoted it, but and I wrote a book 10 years ago called Rock Your Business because I really wanted to share with people what you can learn. I mean, let's face it, Kiss, the Rolling Stones. I mean, Mick Jagger's a genius,
Right.
grossing $10 million a night. I mean, what companies are 50 years old that can still do that kind of business that they are doing? And you walk around, and how many people see their merchandise and their tongue and the Beatles? And you can learn a lot from these rock stars. They're no dummies. They're very smart, and the people around them are smart. So there's a lot to learn.
And speaking of learning, I know you learned a lot of stuff from doing the sports camps and took that into rock camp. Can you kind of talk about the similarities and differences between the rock camps and the sports camps in terms of like the excitement that the people get, or like sort of how they're run? Obviously, they're two different worlds. I mean, they're very similar, sort of.
Well, Rob, when I ran
the
sports business, when I ran the sports camps, it was basically for kids. It was basically for young people, and it wasn't meant for adults. But now I think with the sports business, I think with music, it could be at any age, and it's more about being in a band and listening. And I don't think it was for a young man to have an effect to see Reggie Jackson and see Bucky Denner was one thing, but I think the music part is just so much more creative, and that's probably why I went into I did more music than I did when I got out of sports. Once my players retired, and I did a few of their broadcasting contracts, but and it was all about show me the money. Whereas in music, it's creative. You can come up with an idea, and and I'm thinking an idea every minute. I mean, this brain of mine doesn't. I wish it would stop, but it doesn't. But that's what I love about camp. I can come up with a new concept all the time and create something new.
I love Alice Cooper when he ends it's like at the end of the film, and he's just like, I can't think of anything better to do. He's like, it's better than stamp collecting. It's like, it's just, yeah, that's pretty much sums it up,
Alice
rock
is one
and
of
roll.
those guys that he did 3 times. He did my Q&A, and I was texting him. I said, Alice, it's over an hour and a half already. He says, I got nowhere to go. It was COVID. He stayed on for 2-3 hours. And so, you saw how much passion and how much these artists gave, and God bless them. Now they're out there touring and kicking it on the road.
Yeah.
When you're talking about creating new ideas, like new things always come to you. Just very recently, you started an all-women fantasy camp that had Nancy Wilson and some other folks in it. And then as you mentioned, there's another one coming up in January with Vicki Peterson and Lizzie Hale and Winona Judd. So I want to know what made you want to do this, and where did the idea come from, and how has it gone?
I have to give credit to Britt Lightning, who is she's a lead guitar player in Dixon, and she works with me in the camps and helps me run them. It was her idea to do an all women's camp about 3-4 years ago, and let's do it. And I got to tell you, it was amazing because women, first of all, the camaraderie with women was so much better than the men. The men, they finish the final show. They bring their fans to see their families and their fans and their friends come to the final show. After they get done with their performance last week in New York, they all ran out to dinner. The women never left. The love and the passion that the women had with each other, the camaraderie was so much better. And that's why I'm doing it again, because, a young lady doesn't have to worry about someone coming up with a guitar lick and trying to impress them. They can just feel free. I want to send them to feel free, understand. And, there's different obstacles for women in rock and roll. It's not easy, being a woman in rock and roll. And I think that you can learn a lot. And, more and more, they're getting more successful and the whole thing with the Grammys. But I think this was amazing that women are able to, talk to other women and get advice. And, I did a songwriting camp. I did a songwriting camp with Desmond Child, where people came down. It's 60 people come and really learn about songs. Yeah. And, Desmond was amazing. He spent 4 days going through people's songs. And one day, one lady presented a song, and, he makes you prepare the lyrics, and you have to do line by line. And then he said to this lady, he says, okay, let me hear this lyric. I found love from Nashville to the Alamo. And he said, lady, we lost the Alamo. How did you find love? And, and then we found love. And what are we, Michael Jackson, the We Are the World? It's you got to write a lesson. So all I can tell you at these camps, the insight that you get and the brilliance of these artists and how many artists really make it in this world. Point. So when you're getting these people giving you their their brilliance. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah, I just love the willingness of all the rock stars. I'm going to say rock stars, but they are. One of my favorite points in the movie was the story about the journal. Oh no, I think it was in the book. Actually, it was Liam Gowing, the journalist, who was. Oh, that was so moving. What he was with the camper named Chris Galfoyle.
What a story that was.
Who
Look, by the way, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
You see the movie, there are 5 stories.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm excited to tell everyone that the movie's on Amazon Prime now. They can watch it free.
Yeah.
But I want to say one thing, that we could have done 1,000 stories, because all these people have incredible stories. Right. They all have incredible stories. So while this one was, this is this young man or this woman or this or pistol story, there are 1,000 stories. It was hard to nail them down.
It must have been. I was thinking about that after the movie.
That Keller story, McKinsey and that son.
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this story, but in the movie, that a lady called me about 4 weeks ago, and she sees the movie, and she says, my husband and I, we got divorced, and because we had a child, what's the name of the film? Jackson. And, he had disabilities. And she said, and now the kid, and now the boy is, it's my daughter. She's brain dead, and she's 30, and she's in the home state. These people worked on that child, and he's now going to UCLA. So how amazing is that, where parents can dedicate themselves? The stories, she said that, I was just jealous that family really worked for having that child. So I love that in the film. To me,
and the other child who has autism, and who really over the years, really it's given
power
him
of music.
It is. It's truly the power of music.
It'll make your life. And during COVID, more women picked up instruments. Guitar, Fender did great. Gibson did great. It was incredible.
Yep. I heard about that the instrument stores were saying that during COVID, they had more women coming in to buy guitars than they had ever had before.
Yeah.
Rock and roll women.
That's amazing.
Women, yeah.
Well, I would, the idea of having the all women fantasy camp is amazing. Having been in a all female band for many years back in like the 90s, it would have been amazing to kind of have some people to look to for advice and for, just support, I guess.
Right.
Because there wasn't many,
Support. If you're getting words from Melissa Etheridge, and you're getting Nancy Wilson, and they're encouraging you, you're going to take those words and you're going to take them back. And it's just amazing how we've seen some of these people grow from all these rock stars' encouragements.
I want to pivot a little bit, because we mentioned it at the beginning, and I want to kind of go back to pre-fantasy camp. I'm really interested to know about Ringo's All-Stars, because that's been something that's been going ever since you kind of approached him with the idea. And it's been something I think that has just given a whole new life to Ringo's career. I'm curious to know, when you first approached Ringo Starr and you said, hey, you want to go on tour? I've got this crazy idea, but it's going to involve you learning a bunch of other people's songs. Was that a hard sell? Was he initially receptive to that?
You know what? He had just come out of rehab, and I went over to England, and I pitched him on the idea, and he said, I had the same idea. So together, I was easy to sell. I didn't have to really sell him much. And then he said, let's talk about the band. And he got excited. And I'm so happy for him, because, he's continued to do this over 30 years. And the other tour I created was Happy Together Tour. They're still out there touring all these years. And Dirty Dancing has been a Broadway show. And so, while I'm not involved in them, I feel good that I was involved in the beginning, and these things are still going. So, no, it's great. It's fun. And I'm happy for these people. They're out there doing their passion, doing their love.
I was going to ask you, since we're taking a stroll down memory lane a little bit, when I was in high school, that Monkees reunion tour was a really big deal, right?
Huge.
And as someone who loves the Monkees, it's still a big deal, right?
Well,
But
then they should be in the Hall of Fame.
that was my first question. My next question is,
nothing like the Monkees.
can you just kind of talk about your experience of working with the Monkees and sort of that whole process? Because it does kind of tie in with the camp.
Yeah, I worked in with 3 individuals. They were all represented by themselves, and they don't even own the name. The name is owned now by Rhino, but it was owned by Columbia Pictures. So unlike most bands who start in a garage, and they have camaraderie, this band wasn't like that. And they weren't like that at all. They were told one day, hey, you're going to be the Monkees, period. And it was a great experience, talking to them and dealing with them. And it was luck of the draw, MTV. And I love to tell the stories in the movie, but it was a great experience. And I love Davey, and Peter and I were good friends. And Mickey is super. I took my teenagers on a ship this week, on a ship this year. We just went on because I wanted them to meet Mickey and see the Monkees. So I took my daughter and my son. We went on a cruise together. It was amazing. So let them see that type of music. But the Monkees, their music still holds up. Neil Diamond wrote those amazing songs. So it was great.
Can you talk about some of the sports stuff that you did a little bit, or do you?
I love the sports stuff. Phil Simms, and once I got him as a client, and he got me the whole offensive line. I was representing a lot of the players on the team. Loved it. It was great. And I loved representing them and getting the best contracts. And I love sports, but
how did you even get involved after high school? I mean, you were right after high school. You just
there weren't a lot of agents, man. I don't know. It was just I have goals, and I have goals. So, as a friend of mine was saying to me, dreams are different than goals. So I'm into goals, and I probably wanted to find my way to get out of college. So I decided to go after Elliot Maddox and start representing him. And it's a different business now, but it's still a great business, and I love young people to do it. And so it's a harder business, a lot of competition out there, and the salaries are bigger and the money's bigger. So naturally there's more competition, but it were great years. And I learned a lot.
You worked in you're saying you worked in the Catskills.
The Catskills, yeah. That was,
there's like a whole scene up there.
Yeah, Dirty Dancing. That's what it is. Dirty Dancing, the movie, is the Catskills. No, even though they didn't film it up there, but it was me selling. It was selling comedians there and singers, and it was a whole world. And it was a great place to start because every comedian that works up in the Catskills, we just lost a great one, Freddie Roman, this week. But unlike when you go to a comedy club and you put down $10, $20 and you buy 2 drinks, and anything the comic says, you laugh. You laugh. In the Catskills, you've been given 3 meals a day, and it's all inclusive for the price that you paid. So now you get the show for free, and you try to entertain people who are stuffed, who've eaten all this food for free, and they sit back, say, okay, entertain me. I dare you to make me laugh. I dare you to make me laugh. Because if they laugh, the whole 3 meals are coming out. So they're all nervous to laugh. And these comics have to get creative. And my favorite was a guy named Larry Best. He came out and he said, hey, what do we, don't get upset at me. I just came from the dentist and my teeth are, I might have to cut this performance short. And all of a sudden you see 5 chiclets come out of his mouth. I mean, the stuff that they did, the creative shtick, it's called shtick. Mm-hmm. And nothing like the Catskill comics. They were brilliant. And don't forget, they had to entertain audiences. That's why, a lot of these rock stars say, I'm not working a corporate gig because the people aren't there and not fans. Well, working the Catskills is the same thing. It's hard. So it's a great training ground, both for me and for the comic.
You had mentioned a little bit about the pandemic, and it comes up a lot in the book and the movie. Can you sort of talk about how you did pivot to the master classes online?
Well, that's what I did.
And then the pivoting coming out of that, because that pivot coming out of it is almost harder than the pivot going in.
Right. And it was very hard. It was hard, but we did it. It also opened up our doors so people see what rock camp is, and you get that access. You can talk to Alice Cooper, you can talk to Roger Daltrey. You mean I can really talk to Judas Priest? Yes, you can, and that's what we offer. So you're able to touch the stars, even whether it was on Zoom or not. But so that the people were able to stay in touch with the business. Then I did camps. It was hard because you had to be vaccinated because, you work so close with an artist, and it took some heat from people who didn't want to believe in vaccination. But it's only fair to these artists. They're at an age where, they so it worked. It worked, and camps now are filled up, and they have a great camp coming in March with Led Zeppelin music and Stone Temple Pilots, and they're amazing. Those two guys, the Leo brothers, and Kim Thale from Soundgarden. I mean, he came to the last camp. I asked him to come for a couple hours and jam with everybody. He stayed for 3 days. He really got it, and he's had fun with the campers. So he's coming back this year, and he's going to jam with them and play live at the Whiskey Go Go with him.
I love how some of the artists that you have invited just for, come here briefly and they end up staying.
Let them taste it. Let them taste what we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they realize, yeah.
I was going to ask you a little bit about the involvement of kind of wide range of from multi-generation of artists, because you've had people like Buddy Guy and then people from much younger bands. And I'm just wondering if it was ever a problem getting these folks to work together. Was there ever a lineup that you put together that you thought this will never work?
No, they'll respect each other.
That's fantastic.
It's really the respect, and the young artists respect the old artists. There's just so much artists respect the camp, and I saw that on the Ringo tour too. The amount of respect that everybody has. So it's great. I love that part.
That's fantastic. Well, why don't you say a little bit more about your book for our listeners, because we're going into holiday shopping time. And
great. Well, thank you. No, I appreciate the book. It's called Rock Camp. It's on Amazon. Like I said, 100% of the profits are going to the foundation. I think it's a good motivational book. It's not.
It really is.
It's not a long read. You'll really walk out of there getting motivated, and I'm hoping, like I said, you can, whether you want to go in the wine business, go in the wine business. You want to write an app, go in that. Use that book to motivate you to become, to go for your goal or your dreams. And the film, again, I'm excited that it's on. I just found out Friday. It's on Prime, Amazon Prime. So the first day it did 13,000 minutes. So I'm hoping it will really pick up. People will see it, and again, whether they're musicians or not, if they'll get a life-changing experience from it, I feel blessed. Yeah,
they were both completely inspirational. So highly recommended. If, like you said, it doesn't matter whether you play music or not. It applies to life.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
all right.
Thank you so much, David, for being with us.
Yes. Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thanks for having me, and it's great to see all you guys from all different parts of the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
so
David.
much for spending some time with us. It was enjoyable.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
So, Brittany, Martha, tell me about your podcast.
Oh, no. It's like we're in sync, but also kind of a disaster.
We are always a disaster.
So our podcast is fun if you want to hear two people talk about and complain about stuff that they love and also hate.
And drink.
And drink.
And the show is called?
Oh. But first, let's talk nerdy.
You can find us on the ESO network.
See you next Tuesday.
All right, we're back. So that was a fun interview.
It was. He was
my
so
gosh.
full of energy. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. What an inspirational story.
Oh, yeah.
And he mentioned this early in the interview, so I kind of want to bring it up, and that is that we're recording this on December 4th, and just a couple of days ago, we lost Christine McVie of Fleetwood Mac, and oh my gosh, what an enormous, that hit me.
It hit me too.
Know? Yeah.
I don't know. I think, when somebody of that's been in your life for however long, how many years, 50, whatever, 45, 50, it's just, it's like you can't even process the information. I kept saying that the day it happened, like I just can't even process that information.
Yeah. I really enjoyed seeing the outpouring of comments and sentiments from other artists, people like the girls in Haim, and just people who were inspired by her. And I don't know if you're familiar with the act called Japanese Breakfast. I'm a big fan of her, and she was talking about when she's in the studio and she's trying to create a really interesting keyboard line. She says, I'm trying to channel my inner Christine. And they hung a picture of her in the studio when they were recording their album.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's just amazing. I think she's one of the greatest pop rock songwriters ever. I just think she's got an incredible sense of melody, and I just think she's amazing.
And I think too, what's interesting is we always talk about this idea of legacy artists and things, right? But she is truly an artist that is not defined by a particular era or a generation, which I think is a huge testament, because the music that she helped make and the songs that she wrote are going to live past her, which I know sounds kind of bad now, but we get the very few of these artists that are like, they're in a time and they're done. You know, like right now we have a lot of artists you hear and we're like, okay, they're from the 80s, and you put them in the box for the 80s and you're done, right?
Yeah.
She's one of those artists that it's like, people are still discovering Fleetwood Mac every single day and discovering her. And it's having a profound effect on who they are and what they listen to, right? And that is amazing. You know, she's one of these people that you will always just randomly hear on the radio, and you'll be like, oh, yeah. And then you realize just how amazing she is.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, Alan. I am glad that she's getting all the accolades and things. And I'm glad that along with those accolades is coming this renewed respect for her as a songwriter, because I think that the songs she wrote for the times that she wrote them are really great, because she was writing songs at a time when it was not always easy to be recognized as a songwriter necessarily, right? And now we sort of look at people in bands as both performers and songwriters. And I think that she's one of those people that is in both camps.
And also, she, like you were saying, it's like timeless music. Also, her voice was one of a kind, really, truly one of a kind. I don't know anyone that sounds like her, and you can pick her out immediately. You know, when you hear the two notes, that's her. You know, and someone, I don't know who said this, but I believe it's so true. In a way, she was Fleetwood Mac's secret weapon.
Oh, 100% agree.
And her.
I totally agree. Yeah. You know, it's like Stevie gets all the attention, but Christine was there much longer and was the much more consistent hit maker.
Ann Wilson wrote a really beautiful thing on her post, which she said, I don't know if she took this from somewhere or she wrote it herself, but it was like, she said, Christine was the moon to Stevie's sun. And that was just perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that they are so different people, but they clicked so well. And, you know, when Stevie wrote on her, when she did her post, she said she describes Christine as my best friend in the whole world since the first day of 1975.
Yeah.
When they first met.
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, before we close up shop for this week's episode, I want to get to a couple of messages from listener that we weren't able to get to on the last couple of episodes, but I really want to get these in. And both of these come from Kim McGibney, who is from Atlanta. And the first one that she sent was about the band songs episode. And she wrote, just listen to this great episode. I'd add to the band song list pretty much all of Prince's first album. I'm certain that the song Head never got any airplay. One other that, considering things that ought to make a comeback, and she quotes a song that I'm not going to say the full title, and it's John Lennon's "Woman is the N-word of the world." And yes, I agree. Okay. The PMRC hearings, I watched those. And yes, Frank Zappa testified, followed by John Denver. And then the hero we needed showed up, wearing the tightest pair of jeans and hair billowing behind him, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, or how I became a Twisted Sister fan. And then she posted a link to the YouTube clip of Dee Snider's full Senate hearing speech, which was really great. And then this week, she's not listening to these episodes in order. So this week she wrote, I'm not exactly going in order here. That concert episode, our concert memories episode, was fun. The Fox here in Atlanta was always a great place for a concert. I saw the Pretenders there. The first performance that really has stuck out to me happened when I was 12. I got to stand in the wings and watch Otis Redding sing Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. That must have been an amazing experience. Thank you so much, Kim, A, for listening, but B, for taking the time to write in and let us know your thoughts about the episodes and to add some more to the discussion about these topics. We really, really appreciate it. If anybody else would like to write to us, we love to hear from you, and we love to include your messages on our show. Just drop us a line at modernmusicology1@gmail.com, or just leave a comment on a Facebook post or wherever you're listening to the episode, Spotify or wherever else. Thanks so much. Before we cut out, I want to get to our picks of the week. The thing that I've been listening to this week is Fleetwood Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have just sort of been like, diving into the deep end of the Fleetwood Mac pool. I've always been a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. And by that, I mean from the first album, when they were a blues band in England, up to, what they've done the most recently. And Christine has been there for a long time. I mean, she was there for 5 years before Lindsay and Stevie were, but she was playing on the albums and touring with them before she became a full-time member. So she has been, other than John and Mick, Christine has been there longer than anyone. So I've just been really immersed in the whole Fleetwood Mac thing this week. So have y'all been listening to anything?
I agree. I've actually Rumors what came on to my I was driving for a while and Rumors was on, and I was just, as I had said in the podcast previously, that album it does not age. It's like you can feel like you're in that time, but it's so contemporary. So that's one. And actually, another thing I want to mention is the Bee Gees documentary from the year 2000. I just think that was it blew me away. The amount of, I knew they had a huge catalog, but it even opened my mind even more to how many hits they had, how many, just the whole history of the band, and just how wonderful their voices are and always will be. So,
yeah.
I too have been listening to a lot of Fleetwood Mac, and I know Alan will be quite upset with me, but it had been too long since I'd listened to Fleetwood Mac. I mean, I have records, and it's just I'm very regretful that I go back to them sooner. But I've been listening to Rumors a lot this week. I think like a lot of other people, but I also have been listening to Shufflemania, the brand new album from Mr. Robin Hitchcock.
Oh,
and
nice.
It is a joy, right? It's got everything you expect in a Robin Hitchcock record. He is a really interesting songwriter. You see that in these songs, but he's really good at melodies too. And for a guy who's got a voice that is kind of different than a regular voice, it totally works. And Shufflemania is probably the best record he's done in, I think for me at least, 5 or 10 years. So that's
cool.
Great. The other thing that I've been listening to a lot this week is Between 10th and 11th from the Charlatans.
Charlatans, yeah.
The Charlatans have announced that the Charlatans and Ride are going to go on tour together on a double bill this year.
Awesome.
And it's a co-headlining tour. And I listen to Ride on a pretty consistent basis. And the Charlatans, I've been listening to more Tim Burgess stuff lately than some of the Charlatans records, but I forgot how interesting Between 10th and 11th was. So
Such a good album.
Yeah, and I'm very much looking forward to that tour as well. And then also just single-wise, Sarah Nixie, who was in Black Box Recorder, has a new single out called Lies of the Land. And it is pretty to the point, and it's got if you love her voice and you love Black Box Recorder, if you've never heard Black Box Recorder, it's very similar to things like One Dove or Saint Etienne in sort of the stylings, but it's really good. She's going to do a couple singles and then an album next year, and it's good to have that voice back making records.
That's awesome. All right, well, that's it for this week. We've got one more show coming up for the year, and that is an interview that we'll be doing next week with David Leaf. So stay around for that. Stephanie, where can folks find you on the internet?
You can find me at Bandcamp, just under my name, Stephanie Seymour. You can find me at my website, therearebirds.com. You can find me on Facebook at Stephanie Seymour Music, and you can find me on Instagram at there_r_birds. And of course, on all the streaming platforms everywhere.
I am going to interject at this point that you can find Anthony. He is with the Watchers in the Fourth Dimension podcast, which is a Doctor Who podcast. He and his group have been watching Doctor Who from the very beginning in order and commenting on every story that they've watched. And they are up to the beginning of the second season of Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor. And as soon as our recording is done, I'm going to go listen to the episode because I haven't heard it yet, and I'm very excited too. And you can find his podcast, Watchers in the Fourth Dimension, on Spotify and Apple and all those other places that you find podcasts. And as he says, and probably wherever you're listening to this one.
Yes, he does.
All right, Rob, what about you?
So I am on Facebook and Instagram under Rob Levy. Also, for now, Twitter and Post. Yeah, kids, ask your I think
Millennial.
parents ask your kids.
Yeah, parents ask your millennial.
Yeah, I think I'm. Well, it's what's interesting is a lot of the people on it are my age. I don't feel too old, but so I'm on Post as well, and then I'm doing the needcoffee.com Weekend Justice podcast still fairly regularly, but every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m., season 28, we are in now, of Juxtaposition, my weekly radio show. And you can tune in 7 to 9 Central Time. It's on KDHX in St. Louis. It streams online, but perhaps you are busy because everyone's busy in the holiday season, or they just have things they want to do on Wednesdays. It's okay because every show is archived for 2 weeks. So you can go to the website, go to the archive stream, and listen to it whenever you want. So please check that out.
Awesome. It's a fantastic show, and everyone should go listen to it. You can find me at cosmicpress.com, KOZMIC press.com. And there you can find a list of all the books that I've written and books that I've published by other authors and a list of the podcasts that I do. All right, we'll be back next week. See you soon. Everybody have a great week and keep rocking on.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.